Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's a Flawed Man of God. I'm your host, Stuart Davis, Flawed Man of God. Still adjusting the camera this evening. Um, Flawed Man of God, deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. Not a pastor, not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. Not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about Christianity, talk about the Bible, talk about a wide variety of different topics, issues, and current events, and give you my perspective on them. One that I think is reflective of your average Christian guy. Been a Christian all my life, 40 years, non denominational Protestant. Don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word daily, trying to do it better day in and day out. Sometimes I'll get it right. Many times I'll get it wrong, but either way, if you see me on here streaming, you can bet you're going to get my honest opinions, my honest takes on whatever it is that we're discussing. So, if you are somebody who is new to Christianity, maybe you're not a Christian and you're looking to get more information, wondering what this whole Jesus following is all about. Maybe there's a voice in the back of your mind. Wonder if there is more to your existence than just this life here on earth. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Hopefully this very relaxed, very informal, casual setting will help help get you more interested. Make it more real to you. Maybe you don't want to hear the platitudes or the sermons or the instruction from a preacher. Maybe that's just you're just worried that maybe you're not getting an opinion free of conflict of interest, perhaps. It shouldn't be true. Most of the times it isn't. But still, if your soul, your spirit, right? What makes you you is very intimate. It's very personal. And many times people are very protective of it. You should be, right? God finds value in it. And if he finds value in it, you certainly should cherish it. He gave it to you for a reason. But maybe that makes you more guarded about things. And maybe you want to hear the perspective from some of the people who go to church and sit in the pew. And that's what I can offer. I can offer you the layperson approach, the layperson perspective, the guy sitting in the pew next to you. And I've just been doing it for a long time. So hopefully, like I said, maybe you can take from what you learn here. Maybe it will springboard you into a relationship with God. It puts you on a path to salvation. Maybe get you involved with the church. Maybe get you studying more into the word. And perhaps one day you'll know more about the faith than I do. Maybe you are already a Christian and you just like Christian topics and discussions. And if so, you'll like it here. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night study group or a Sunday school. We've got a great group of folks in the chat, and they'd love to hear from you no matter whatever side of the spectrum that you're on. Searching out, new Christian, not sure of whatever, or smarter than me, smarter than me in the faith and in the word and in church history and all the things. We all want you to join the chat, and you can be part of this very small community. If you put something in that chat, I promise you, I'll read and respond to it. We are still a small, relatively small group. And with that said, let's start into this Tuesday night. Veritax, first one in the chat tonight. Not much to quip today. Didn't get to read ahead. Well, we're going to do 3 chapters tonight. Serrano says, Sleepy Stew. Not so much tonight. You're not going to find me sleeping on stream like Bunger did. Alias, haven't seen you in a while. Good. Glad to see you raising your hand. Good to see you here. Same thing with Mr. Felty. Glad to see you as well. You guys, soccer practice was a bit of a pill tonight. The kids were acting up. We had I didn't talk about this last night, But we played our fourth game. It was the first time my son allowed multiple goals, but he did okay. We ran into a team that was very disciplined in positioning, making sure they got the ball back in bounds and in play, passing it, very technically sound. And that was cool to watch. What was not cool to watch was the amount of shoving and unsportsmanlike conduct that they also displayed that was frustrating our kids left and right. And we were talking to the other coach about it. She didn't want to listen to what was being said. She ignored us. And the refs, which are kids, it's hard to find refs these days. So most of the time, you get young boys, sometimes young gals, out there refing the games, and they're not always as assertive as they need to be. And these were about as passive as it gets. They didn't blow a whistle at all, except to start the first half, end the first half, start the second half, and end the game. Those were all the whistles. It was 4 times. Um, but our team did well handling it. They did not sink to the other level. They were not pushing back and pushing people down. And they've still played well. We put doesn't work. They're wearing shin guards. It's they still scored a couple goals, but we need to be more. I think we need to be more aggressive on offense. So we were trying to get that talk to them today. I told the kids, I was proud of them for the way they behaved themselves, but told them that where we really need to improve is really putting pressure on their defense when our offense comes. We got a lot of talent. We got a lot of talent, and they just need to apply it. They just need to apply it. Focus issues. But yeah, we had that happen. Somebody hit my car at the in the parking lot out there, and so now I've got this big old scrape on my bumper, and it's set my bumper out of joint, and so is my attitude about it. So is what it is, guys. Is what it is. Like, all I have to do is look at Job. We're reading Job tonight. So when bad things happen, look at Job. Pray to the Lord, count your blessings, name them one by one, and realize Job went through worse. Job did go through worse. Your Nath said kick him in the shins. Yeah. Serrano says unless teeth and fingernails were coming out, let him at it. You can eject when you get a Mike Tyson incident. Yeah, that's for the adults. That's for the adults. Where they're not at that level yet. They're still this is still developmental. This is not take all your rage out from the this isn't the rec league where you take all your rage out from the week or overcompensate because you peaked in high school aggression out on the other team. So so there you have it. Oh, not YouTube, not auto starting. YouTube is special. What else? Had a good lunch with a pastor at a church that I go listen to sermons from time to time. Awesome guy, awesome preacher. Just invited him out to lunch and wanted to talk to him about various things and get to know him a little bit more. And it was great conversation. A lot of talk about the faith and yeah, I was very fulfilling. I told him what kind of what I did. I think he kind of knows about what I do, but hasn't really followed it that much. And but he was asking questions. He thought it was very cool. We were talking about Job and Job's. One of the things he was talking about is like Job at the beginning, the beginning of the book, Job. It's very hard to reconcile. God basically allowing this thing to happen. It's a struggle to explain to somebody, right? How do you tell a congregation full of parents and grandparents and young kids and young adults, that Satan, um, in essence, made a deal with God to test this man. And by testing him, it was going to take him to the limit, right? Take him all the way to the edge. Do as much as you could to this man without killing him. And that meant taking away all his possessions. Yeah, we can deal with that. Killing his family, that's the hardest one to deal with. Afflicting him with terrible health, disease, also difficult. The worst pain and suffering, and what a lot of people don't understand, don't really pick up on sometimes, is the isolation of Satan turning his friends against him, or Satan um, allowing his friends to act in kind. So we really don't know the real motivations of these friends. Were they really deceived by Satan um, into thinking all these things about Job, or were they already kind of not so great friends, and Satan just allowed him to see what maybe he didn't realize already? Don't know. But what I said is, what I like of my theory, my take on it is, God is the head of the faith, right? He's the leader of the universe, the creator. Sorry, guys, I'm taking my shoes off. He's the big cheese. But he is a great leader, the greatest leader. But what do great leaders do? Lead by example. I'm not going to ask you anything that I couldn't demand out of myself. When I talk about sacrifice, when I talk about living a perfect life, when I talk about teaching, all these things, I'll do it and I'll show you. And he sends in Christ is the perfect example of this, right? He talks about having patience and forgiveness. I mean, look, we've been reading through the Old Testament. How much patience and forgiveness has God shown the Israelites? How much was he able to look past the flaws of Jacob or David and Solomon or Abraham screwing up from time to time, doing just asinine things? God is patient. God says, I'm not going to just expect you to have a society and make it work. I'm going to give you guidelines for it. I'm going to tell you exactly what I want out of you. He communicates. He gives examples, and he acts as an example. And what he had here was an opportunity to, maybe put it crassly, make Job an example. Job's suffering, and Job was one of the best we had, one of the best humans ever out there. So God was going to put one of his best to the test against a reprehensible being in Satan, so that when Satan comes at us, who may not be the best folks out there, we might have a bit higher propensity of giving into sin. Maybe we aren't blameless in the sight of the Lord. That would be everybody in this chat, everybody watching this video, not blameless in the sight of the Lord. But when Satan comes for us, when tragedy and obstacles are coming after us, when it feels like the weight of the world is too much for us, we have an example in Job that you can still do it right. And as much as we may not deserve some of the things that happen to us in life, Job certainly didn't. And as we've gone through these last 28 chapters, we've seen it. We've seen him hang on to his faith. We've seen him hang on in his belief that God is good and righteous. He is confused and he is upset. That's understandable. That's understandable. And so what we've seen over the past few chapters has been the back and forth between God, Job arguing with his friends. Job makes a pronouncement. His friends critique it, try to pull him down, and then Job defends himself. And then another friend comes out, and it's just over and over again. Last night we started a long 5-chapter monologue from Job in chapters 27 and 28. Tonight we're going to finish the last 3. We're going to do 3 chapters tonight, 29, 30, and 31. And that'll set us up for Wednesday night, where we will have kind of like the next phase of the book of Job. I sincerely hope that you guys are getting something out of this, that you guys are not necessarily getting something out of me talking about it, but hopefully if I am, then great. But what's being described in Job, you see it, and it's something that you guys, if you aren't already, learning to apply in your own life. Because Job, there's so much of Job that is an example for us in how we live our lives. And it is a good primer on that leading up to gospel when we get to the life of Christ, when we get to his actions here on earth, what he teaches us through his parables, through his deeds, and his fulfillment of prophecy, his defeat of death, his rising and ascending after what was a very public execution. So, Nernaeth, by the way, welcome to the chat, Nernaeth. They were secretly envious. I think that's a very maybe God gets into it later on. God is going to speak in this book, by the way, guys. Maybe God gets into it because God knows their hearts, and I can't remember which though. I can't remember if he says it himself. Serrano says, I'm at least 4% blameless. That's how much of my body is milk. Yeah. Soy milk, Serranos, which would make you 100% plain. Texan Italian in here. How's it going, sir? All right. Got a good group of folks here tonight. Always a great group of folks. All right. So let's get into I'm going to remember to save or to share the screen. Job chapter 25. Amplified Bible. And here we go. Job's past was glorious. And Job again took up his discussion and said, Oh, that I were as in the months of old, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and by his light I walked through darkness. As I was in the prime of my days, when the friendship and counsel of God were over my tent, when the Almighty was still with me, and my boys were around me. That one he's probably choking up there. He's talking about his kids. He does, and look, and here's the order it basically goes into, talking about God being with him, and then his kids. When my steps through rich pastures were washed with butter and cream from my livestock, and the rock poured out for me streams of oil from my olive groves. When I went out to the gate of the city, when I took my seat as a city father in the square, the young men saw me and hid themselves, and the aged arose and stood respectfully. The princes stopped talking and put their hands on their mouths. The voices of the nobles were hushed, and their tongues stuck to the roof of their mouths. For when an ear heard my name mentioned, it called me happy and fortunate, and when an eye saw me, it testified for me approvingly. because I rescued the poor who cried for help, and the orphan who had no helper. He was just accused by Eliphaz of not doing this, because I rescued the poor who cried for help, and the orphan who had no helper. The blessing of him who was about to perish came upon me, and I made the widow's heart sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My justice was like a robe and a turban. I was eyes to the blind, and I was feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. I investigated the case I did not know. I investigated the case I did not know and assured justice. And I smashed the jaws of the wicked and snatched the prey from his teeth. Then I said, I shall die in my nest, and I shall multiply my days as the sand. My root is spread out and open to the waters, and the dew lies all night upon my branch. My glory and honor are fresh in me, constantly being renewed, or being constantly renewed. And my bow, I'm going to start over from that part. My glory and honor are fresh in me, being constantly renewed. And my bow gains ever new strength in my hand. They listened to me and waited and kept silent for my counsel. After I spoke, they did not speak again, and my speech dropped upon them like a refreshing shower. As they waited for me and for my words as for the rain, and they opened their mouths as from the spring rain, I smiled at them when they did not believe, and when they did not diminish the light of my face. I chose a way for them and sat as chief, and dwelt as a king among his soldiers, as one who comforts mourners. Nernanth says, people are happy to like Job and say good things when was rich. They gave him the benefit of the doubt when it was going well. Exactly. He's missing this. He's missing this time. He was righteous. Everyone knew he was righteous, and he had so much going for him. He had so much love for it. He cherished it. He loves being obedient to God. He loves doing what God wants us to do. And he listed some of the things that he did. He was a town elder. He helped out the cripple. He watched out for the widow. He did what he could for the orphans and the homeless. And he fed off of that. Being righteous before the Lord brought him joy, like true joy. And he was well rewarded for it. Job's present state is humiliating, chapter 30. But now those younger than I mock and laugh at me, whose fathers I refuse to put with the sheepdogs of my flock. Indeed, how could the strength of their hands profit me? Vigor had perished from them. They are gaunt with want and famine. They gnaw the dry and barren ground by night in the gloom of waste and desolation. They pluck and eat stalwart mallows among the bushes. Marshmallows? And their food is the root of the broom shrub. They are driven from the community. They shout after them as after a thief. They must dwell on the slopes of the wadis and in holes in the ground and in the rocks. Among the bushes they cry out like wild animals. Beneath the prickly scrub they gather and huddle together. They are the sons of worthless and nameless fools. They have been driven out of the land, and now I have become the subject of their taunting. Yes, I am a byword and a laughingstock to them. They hate me. They stand aloof from me and do not refrain from spitting in my face. Did y'all by the way, did any of y'all catch that video of the Christians carrying the cross in Israel a couple of or last week, and the Jewish people walking past them were spitting on them as they walked by? it was just, it was such a, this is the act of total disrespect that I think a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of contempt felt for us who believe in the Messiah, who aren't still waiting for one after 8,000 years. We recognized Jesus when he came. They have denied him. Right? And we can preach to them. We can evangelize to them. And they'll call it anti-Semitism. Are you sure it was Jewish people and not Muslims? Well, let's look it up. I am fairly certain. You tell me what you think. Oh, great. This is 100% true. A lot of people don't understand this. We live in a very comfortable society in the US that has made extraordinary efforts to be more accommodating and overcompensate for our racist past by being as open as possible. And we've been open for a long time. I mean, we might not have treated Catholics well when they came in. We might have not have treated Irish or Italians well when they came in, but we opened our doors to them. Certainly we were poor to the Chinese. And the elephant in the room, right, is slavery, right? We brought slaves in. We have tried our best to be a equal society, and we struggle with it mightily. And it's good for us to hold ourselves accountable. But if you think for a moment that the places around the world are more accepting and tolerant of other cultures, races, ethnicities, and religions, you are absolutely ignorant of what goes on around the world. Absolutely ignorant. People around the world are more xenophobic than most people think. The U.S. is an exception. If you think we're xenophobic, go to Asia. Go to the Middle East. Here it is. Let's all right. Hang on. Make sure that I'm sharing sound. Also share tab audio. Okay, here we go. Yeah, they did Veritax. They did. Look, I'll let the video speak for itself. It's not the only time uh, it's happened. I mean, they. It is what it is. Kind of like what Nernea said. It is what it is. Being a Christian isn't a golden ticket into Willy Wonka's factory, guys. I mean, it's a ticket into heaven, right? But that doesn't mean that you get this is you're getting an immediate vacation where everybody's going to treat you nice. This isn't Joel Osteen. This isn't Kenneth Copeland. This isn't oh crap. Who's that guy who was talking about he wants $10,000, not $10. Benny Hinn. It's not going to be this thing where your life is going to be great. We're reading Job, right? You know what happens with Christ, right? Spoiler alert, all but one of the disciples are martyred. And they ain't the only ones. They died with God on their lips. It's not an easy road. Look at the people who the church has sainted throughout history. They usually did not have an easy go of things. No, I don't think so, Matt. If so, I don't remember it. Look, it's difficult to even imagine that any Christians exist. The last I heard, most of the Chaldeans are dead. Almost the Chaldean Christians are dead. So that's where the noon sign comes from that you see some Christians sport. Been thinking about getting it as a tattoo, actually. Made me well up, to be honest. We talk about how that's bad. They'll kill you in Africa. They'll kill you in other places in the Middle East for your faith. They'll kill you in China. They'll disappear you in China. There's much more dangerous places to be. We take our security for granted as Americans. We take our security for granted as Christians. We are lazy often. Renee said, I mean, even in Ireland and Scotland, they keep up on whose family you were in and if yours hates theirs. Same for Italy and some Spanish families. Yeah. The churches in the Middle East, Africa, and China is more healthy than most other countries. Hey, I mean, look at the Global Methodist Church versus the United Methodist Church. Why did the United Methodist Church split? Who was the driving force on splitting them? The African and Asian churches. Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. Join the Discord and share. Love to see it. Might share it. Not a bad video at all. Okay. Where were we at? For God has loosed. Well, let's start off. Let's pick up a little. They hate me and they stand aloof from me and do not refrain from spitting in my face. For God has loosed his bowstring, attacking me, and he has afflicted and humbled me. They have cast off the bridle of restraint before me. On my right, the rabble brood rises. They push my feet away, and they build up their ways of destruction against me like an advancing army. They break up and clutter my path, upsetting my plans. They profit from my destruction. They profited by stealing your stuff. No one restrains them, as through a wide breach they come. Amid the crash of falling walls, they roll on over me. Terrors are turned upon me. They chase away my honor and reputation like the wind, and my prosperity has passed away like a cloud. And now my soul is poured out within me. The days of affliction have seized me. My bones are pierced with aching in the night season, and the pains that gnaw me take no rest. The great force of my disease, my garment is disfigured and blemished. It binds about me, choking me like the collar of my coat. God has cast me into the mire, a swampland of crisis, and I have become worthless, like dust and ashes. Where's Emmanuel Osorio talking about ashes to ashes and dust to dust? I cry for your help, O Lord, but you do not answer me. I stand up, but you only gaze indifferently at me. You have become harsh and cruel to me. With the might of your hand, you keep me alive only to persecute me. You lift me up on the wind and cause me to ride upon it, and you toss me about in the tempest and dissolve me in the storm. For I know that you will bring me to death and to the house of meeting appointed for all the living. However, hold on. However, oh, thanks. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Matt Chu. For I know that you will bring me to death and the house of meeting appointed for all the living. However, does not one falling in a heap of ruin stretch out his hand? Or in his disaster will he not therefore cry out for help? Did I not weep for one whose life was hard and filled with trouble? Was not my heart grieved for the needy? When I expected good, then evil came to me. And when I waited for light, then came darkness. I am seething within, and my heart is troubled and cannot rest. Days of affliction come to meet me. I go about mourning without comfort, my skin blackened by disease, not by the heat of the sun. I stand up in the assembly and cry out for help. I am a brother to howling jackals and a companion to ostriches who scream dismally. Talking about his friends here, jackals and ostriches screaming dismally. My skin falls from me in blackened flakes, and my bones are burned with fever. Therefore, my lyre is used for the sound of mourning, and my flute for the sound of the voices of those who weep. Things were great. It was the best of times in chapter 29, and it was the worst of times in chapter 30. And we've heard it before. We know. It sucks now. And here, if I remember correctly, here is where Job will speak and wrap things up. Job asserts his integrity. I have made a covenant, an agreement with my eyes. How then could I gaze lustfully at a virgin? For what is the portion I would have from God above, and what heritage from the Almighty on high? Does not tragedy fall justly on the unjust, and disaster to those who work wickedness? Does God not see my ways and count all of my steps? If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has chased after deceit, oh, let him weigh me with accurate scales, and let God know my integrity. My step is turned away from If my step is turned away from the way of God, or if my heart has covetously followed my eyes, or if any spot of guilt has stained my hands, then let me plant and let another eat from the results of my labor, and let my crops be uprooted and ruined. If my heart has been enticed and I was made a fool by a woman, it happens. Or if I have covetously lurked at my neighbor's door until his departure, let my wife grind meal like a bondslave for another man, and let others kneel down over her. For adultery is a heinous and lustful crime. Moreover, it would be a sin punishable by the judges. For it is a fire which consumes to Abaddon, destruction, ruin, final torment, an illicit passion would burn and rage and uproot all my life's increase, destroying everything. If I have despised and rejected the claim of my male and female servants when they filed a complaint against me, what then could I do when God arises to judge me? When he calls me to account, what will I answer him? Did not he who made me in the womb make my servant? And did not the same one fashion us both in the womb? That's a great passage there. I love that. This part right here. What a good line. Did not he who made me in the womb make also my servant? And did not the same one fashion us both in the womb? We are equals. If I have withheld from the poor what they had desired, or have caused the eyes of the widow to look in vain for relief, or eaten my morsel of food alone and did not share it with the orphan, but from my youth the orphan grew up with me as with a father, and from my mother's womb I have been the widow's guide. If I have seen anyone perish for lack of clothing, or any poor person without covering, if his loins have not thanked and blessed me for clothing them, I mean, I guess nobody wants frostbite on the giblets. And if he was not warmed with the fleece of my sheep, if I have lifted my hands against the orphan, because I saw that the judges would be my help at the council gate, then let my shoulder fall away from its socket, and my arm be broken off at the elbow. For tragedy from God is a terror to me, and because his majesty and exaltation I can do nothing, nor endure facing him. If I have put my trust and confidence in gold, or have declared fine gold in my hope and assurance, if I have gloated and rejoiced because my wealth was great and because my powerful hand alone had obtained so much, if I beheld the sun as an object of worship when it shone, or the moon going into its splendor, and my heart became secretly enticed by them, and my hand threw a kiss from my mouth in respect to them, this also would have been a heinous sin calling for judgment, for I would have denied God above. Have I rejoiced at the destruction of the enemy who hated me, or exulted in malicious triumph when evil overtook him? No. I have not allowed my mouth to sin by cursing my enemy and asking for his life. I assure you, the men of my tent have said, who can find one in need who has not been satisfied with his meat? Do not any of you perverts and degenerates make any joke about that. The stranger has not lodged in the street because I opened my door to the traveler. I have concealed my transgressions like Adam or like other men by hiding my wickedness in my bosom. Because I fear the great multitude, and the contempt of families terrified me, so that I kept silence and did not acknowledge my sin and did not go out the door. Oh, that I had one to listen to me. Look, here is my signature. Mark, let the Almighty answer me. Let my adversary write out his indictment and put his vague accusations in tangible form. Surely I would proudly bear it on my shoulder and bind the scroll around my head like a crown. I would count out to him the number of my steps with every detail of my life, approaching his presence as if I were a prince. For if my land has cried out against me and its furrows weep together, if I have eaten its fruits without paying for them, or have caused its rightful owners to lose their lives, let thorns grow instead of wheat, and stinkweed and cockleburs instead of barley. And so the words of Job with his friends are finished. He finishes strong here. These last 3 chapters, I'm glad I read them together. I just did it to tie it up because Like I said, we entered another phase. We've only got 2 more phases really left, maybe 3. 2 phases and an epilogue. Job talking about, I was great, now it sucks, but I still have my righteousness. I still have my integrity. I still know I am still convinced I've done the right thing through and through. And he is holding on to hope. All right, guys. That's going to wrap things up. We rolled through that. It was pretty good. That was pretty good. All right. Matt Felty says, I've visited 31 a number of times. Where did I go? Yeah. Good. He seems a bit distracted with how other people see him. He seems to be focused on refuting his friends because he cannot explain to God. Well, and he makes that clear in chapter 30, I think. Maybe it's in 31. Maybe I just read it. Anyway, he talks about how he's crying out to God, but God doesn't answer him. He's in darkness. So he's kind of reacting to where the only place he can get any type of reaction. He's not getting any reaction out of God. And let's face it, his mental state probably terrible right now. We've touched on that before. So while he's maintaining his righteousness, he's probably not doing a great job focusing, maybe perhaps where he needs to focus. I don't know. We'll get into that later. All right, guys, we've had a really good. This is a really good reading tonight. That was one of the things that talking to the pastor today at lunch. He's like, I usually tell people to read the first 5 chapters of Job and then read the last 5 chapters of Job. I think a little bit, maybe the last 10 chapters of Job or the last 11. But anyway, it's been a good day. It's been a good day. God is good. May God bless you all. Nirnaeth, Matt Felty, Veritax, Texan Italian, Serranos, Alias. Thanks for coming to the stream. Glad to have you here. Glad that you contributed. You guys do an awesome job. It's not just the value you guys bring, but you also do a great job just being an audience, being a chat, being fellow dudes, right? Being fellow dudes when it comes to discussing faith. Y'all are good. Y'all are valuable people. Y'all are worthwhile. Stick with it. God loves you. And everybody else who wasn't in the chat who was listening, thank you guys for listening. Glad you're getting something out of this content and that you enjoy, that gets you guys keep tuning in night after night. Because I promise you, I've seen the views. The views aren't great. The views aren't super high. But it's more than the people participating in the chat. So I know that you guys are listening, that you guys are playing Wallflower. That's great. I encourage you to join the chat, but I don't care. I'm just glad I get content. Like I said, I'm glad I'm giving something out there that you guys continually desire. For everybody catching us on replay, I hope to catch you live soon. In the meantime, everybody, plan on being here, same bat time and bat channel next tomorrow. Not next tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday evening. In the meantime, guys, have a very good night and God bless.